Every year on the 8th of March, the world marks International Women's Day, a day that celebrates the achievements of women while also reflecting on the journey towards equality, opportunity and empowerment. The theme for International Women's Day 2026 is Give to Gain, reminding us that progress is often built on support, mentorship and collaboration. So when opportunities are created for women and girls to learn, lead and innovate, societies gain as a whole through new ideas, stronger institutions and a more inclusive future. In India, this spirit is clearly visible in the field of science. Across laboratories, research centers, universities and institutions, women scientists are contributing to groundbreaking work. In the words of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, from space exploration and climate science to medicine, biotechnology and emerging technologies, the work of women scientists in India is not only advancing scientific discovery, but also strengthening India's journey towards the vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047, where knowledge and innovation will be the key drivers of national progress.
Innovation जब inclusive होती है, तो उसके एक प्रमुख बेनिफिशियरी ही उसके लीडर्स भी बन जाते हैं। भारत की महिलाएं इसका सबसे बड़ा उदाहरण है। आप देखिए, दुनिया में जब भारत के स्पेस मिशंस की बात होती है, तो उसमें इंडियन विमेन साइंटिस्ट की चर्चा बहुत ज्यादा होती है। पेटेंट फाइलिंग में भी भारत में महिलाओं द्वारा सालाना फील्ड पेटेंट्स की संख्या एक दशक पहले 100 से भी कम थी। अब ये सालाना 5000 से भी ज्यादा तक पहुंच गई है। स्टेम एजुकेशन में भी महिलाओं का शेयर करीब 43% है, जो कि ग्लोबल एवरेज से भी ज्यादा है। मैं दुनिया के एक विकसित देश में उनके साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी मिनिस्टर के साथ लिफ्ट में ऊपर जा रहा था, तो लिफ्ट में उनसे बातें हुई तो उन्होंने मुझे पूछा कि भारत में लड़कियां क्या साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी जैसे विषयों में जाती है क्या? यानी ये उनके मन में बड़ा अजूबा था। जब मैंने इनको कहा कि मेरे देश में इतना नंबर होता है, तो वो चौंक गए थे। ये भारत की बेटियों ने करके दिखाया है। और आज भी मैं यहां देख रहा हूं कितनी बड़ी तादाद में हमारी बेटियां हैं, बहनें हैं। ये आंकड़े हमें बताते हैं कि भारत में साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी के क्षेत्र में महिलाएं कितनी तेजी से आगे बढ़ रही हैं।
But behind every scientific breakthrough is also a powerful human story, that of curiosity, perseverance, mentorship, and the courage to challenge the norms and conventions. And today, women in India are not just part of the scientific ecosystem, they are leading research, mentoring the next generation, inspiring countless young girls to dream bigger. So on this special Women's Day episode, we celebrate those stories and people and the remarkable contributions of women in science. Joining us are eminent women scientists from across the country, each of whom has made significant contributions in her field and continues to inspire through her work and leadership. It is an absolute honor and privilege to welcome on this special telecast 5 eminent women. Padma Shri Professor Dr. Indira Hinduja. She's a renowned gynecologist and infertility specialist, a pioneer of in vitro fertilization. We all know she's credited with the delivery of India's first scientifically documented test tube baby back in 1986, the first gift baby in 1988, and the first egg donation baby in 1990. Also for her outstanding service in the field of medicine, she was honored with many awards, including the Padma Shri in 2011. Dr. Hinduja, what an honor to welcome you on Sansad TV today on this special telecast. Thank you for taking out time for this conversation. We're also joined by Professor Annapurni Subramaniam. She's Director, Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bangalore. She has more than 3 decades of research experience. She's published about 175 research publications in topics such as star clusters, stellar populations, galaxies, ultraviolet astronomy. She was conferred the Rashtriya Vigyan Puraskar, Vigyan Shri, for 2024 in the category of space science and technology. Dr. Subramaniam, absolute pleasure to welcome you on the program today. Also, Dr. Bhavani Rao, she is Dean, School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Amritapuri and Coimbatore. She's Director, Ammachi Labs and Center for Women's Empowerment and Gender Equality, UNESCO Chair, Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. Thank you, Dr. Rao, for joining us today. Welcome to Sansad TV. Dr. Sharmila Mande, former Distinguished Chief Scientist, TCS Research, Tata Consultancy Services. She's also built one of India's first large-scale computational biology research programs, and also with the pioneering work on the human microbiome. She's developed nearly 100 patented algorithms. Dr. Mande, it's a privilege to have you join us on the show today as well. And finally, Ms. Nigar Shaji, she's project director of the Aditya L1 mission. All of us know India's first mission to observe the sun. And if you've seen her on the media, she's also been described as the sunny lady of space research. Over more than 3 decades, she's played a key role in several missions at ISRO and is now a role model for many women who also want to pursue a career in space science. Ms. Shaji, thank you for taking out time and joining us. We're really pleased to have your presence on Sansad TV. Let me begin by asking each of you to briefly take us back to the beginning of your journey. Since your stories have been remarkable, you inspire so many young women across the country. So it would be interesting to know what first sparked your curiosity about science back in the time when it wasn't as common as it is today. Also, when did you realize that this would become your life's calling? Dr. Hinduja, allow me to begin with your perspective. You're widely recognized as a pioneer of IVF in India. When you look back at those early years of research, experimentation to now, when we've made significant advancements in technology, how do you reflect on this journey from when you started to now in 2026?
Let me admit, in the beginning, I never wanted to take gynac. My favorite subject was pediatrics. However, for certain situations, I changed my subject. But from the beginning, I thought that I don't want to do the routine DNC deliveries and all that. So next to KEM Hospital, there was an institute, which was ICMR Institute, was labeled as Institute for Research and Reproduction, which was short form as I. That name itself really fascinated me. And that was the time when world's first IVF baby was popular. And I said, why can't we try it in India as well? So one day I collected a courage and I entered in that, spoke to the person what all research has been done. And I was associated with the person who was doing some experiments on reproductive system in the hamster. And I just requested him, can I just watch your experiment? However, it was too primitive. And then I just say, can we not transfer this in the human? Let's study how the reproduction occurs in human. He was aghast. He said, no, we cannot do it. I said, we'll go with the proper permission, which really took us for a long time to take the Scientific Advisory Committee permission, Dean's permission in KEM Hospital, and head of the department. Eventually, when we started collecting the human eggs from the time when the woman comes for sterilization. So if we see the follicle, we put the needle, aspirate, run with the fluid across the road, enter the building, see in the building, and see whether the egg is there. And if the egg is there, my God, that was a celebration. And then we didn't know whether it is mature, immature, and then we used to compare with the books, what it says, how it says. That's how I learned first the collection of the egg and identification of the human egg, and see how it looks and how it differs from the animal egg. Well, this is how my beginning was. And gradually, every time you proceed, you have to present to the scientific committee. And once they are convinced, they'll give you the permission because it was an Institute for Research and Reproduction under ICMR. And ICMR committee will review our project. Then they say, okay, go ahead. And small amount of funds used to come with available facilities, with available infrastructure, with minimum funds we used to do. And if we have to go something, then we develop the friendship with next institute, Tata Institute of Research. Then all that we used to borrow some plastic ware and start doing it. And eventually we transferred this technique in the human with the permission of ethics committee and scientific committee.
It's been quite a journey, Dr. Hinduja. In fact, you've changed so many lives. You've given the joy of parenthood to so many couples across the country. But I'm curious to know that at a time when it was difficult, there were so many challenges that persisted. Even then, you're credited with so many firsts in the field of medical science. Bringing a new medical technology to the country at that time, I'm sure, must have required immense perseverance. What kept you going despite the challenges and despite the odds?
Tell you very frankly, it was the failure used to give me the challenge. Why the others in UK, they succeeded and why did we fail? So for hours together, we used to go through our procedures and see where went we wrong. And then what can we do? Shall we do this? Shall we do this? And sit and evaluate. And then what happened, that embryologist, the animal person who was doing the work in institute, he left because he got a better job in Bangalore. Therefore, I was left alone. But fortunately, director of the institute accepted me as a PhD student of that institute. So I got a proper admission in Institute for Research and Reproduction. To pursue my PhD, I went ahead. And every failure with the juniors who were helping me, we used to discuss over and over. And then we used to rectify and keep on getting success like that way. Well, I'm not very happy that I got IVF. I'm happy that I got it with limited funds, without going abroad for the training, with our own hands and with our own expertise, we achieved it. I feel that was little, I would say, no apne muh mithu miya. It was creditable.
No, but I think
this is what I
think you've expressed a very important point, and I think that's what's important also for the youngsters to understand, that perseverance and persistence are the key to scientific discoveries, and that's where you all in so many ways have shown us the light, given us the hope, and that's with that hope we are now looking at the Viksit Bharat vision of 2047. Professor Annapurni Subramaniam, you've spent more than 3 decades studying the universe, from star clusters to the galaxies. What is it that first drew you to astronomy, and what is it that still excites you about exploring the cosmos? And I ask you this because you've seen that transformation. This was one area wherein a lot of women would not be interested in, or may perhaps, even if they're curious enough, would not be bold enough to take that big leap. But you did it, and you've seen the transformation, you've seen the space ecosystem also evolve. So how do you see that change? But also, if you could throw some light on your personal journey, share it with our viewers.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, I grew up in an interior place, and I did not have much of an exposure or like a role model for science in the family. I grew up in a musical family. My parents were musicians. Okay. So more exposure to music and learning music and practicing music, etc. But I was very curious to know things and do things on my own. And mathematics and physics interested me quite a bit. So I used to work on it, but I mean, it was ensured at home that I sing, or I'm a violinist, so play violin at home. And that was more important for my parents than actually scoring marks or anything at school. So But growing up in an interior place has its own advantages as well. When we used to have power cuts, there would be complete darkness, and we used to go and sit outside, and we used to really enjoy looking at the night sky. And we used to see the night sky and the stars, and then we start looking at where the positions are. They change, so got attracted to looking at them, identifying them, and it was quite inspiring for me because questions like what is out there, and there was a comet, the Halley's comet had come that time as also. So, and people say don't go out and look at it, it could bring bad omens and things like. We don't believe it. So, but you can't do anything more than that. As much as you can do, you go ahead and read about it, but nothing else. But physics interested me, maths interested me very well, and I at some point decided that if I take up music, I may have to leave science. So I took up science so that I can carry music with me along. So that is how it was. But when I got an opportunity to do PhD in Indian Institute of Astrophysics, I thought it was just my luck, and it was the path I would like to do. And the only thing was I wanted to work with telescopes, which meant that I have to go and sit in the observatory, faraway observatory.
Right.
So we have to stay away from the a family town, and then it's in I spent a lot of time in the Vainamappu Observatory in Kavalur. So my parents are not very happy that I'm staying away for quite some time, etc. But once I took them and showed them, how happy I am there, and they got used to the place, they saw the place, and because we have to spend the entire night at the telescope. So you still go in the evening around 6 o'clock, and the work gets over at morning around 6 o'clock. So it's like that's a schedule. So, but that was what made me happy. So I told them that, look, that is what making me happy, doesn't matter. So then they got convinced. Then from that day onwards, if you look at the development now, previously you have to go to the telescope to collect the data, and the resources to actually study those data and make science out of it is only there. It was nowhere else. But now there's a huge data democratization because the data is publicly available from various missions, various telescopes. You also have software available. With a decent computer, laptop, students can sit anywhere and do science and do actually very good research. So it has moved considerably from that time onwards. But looking back, the experience I have with the spending time with the telescope, with the instruments, I understand the systems very well. So that is giving me a lot of advantage when I am holding the position of the director of the institute or planning for bigger missions. So that is important as well. But the field has changed. A lot more access is there now, and a lot more people are able to do research in astronomy and astrophysics. And as you rightly said, the space is actually quite interesting. Everybody looks at the sky and wants to be part of it in some way or the other. So that's actually happening. And with the government's initiative to open up science, space sciences, and there are a lot of startups, people who are aspiring to do something, they have the opportunity to do as well. Yeah, it is quite.
It's been an unconventional journey, but quite interesting, Professor Subramaniam. We would love to know more from you about how we can strengthen the future of research in this area as well, which can inspire a lot of young girls, the youngsters across the country. Since you spoke about data and technology, let me take that across to Dr. Mande. Dr. Mande, you've been at the forefront of computational biology. How do you see interdisciplinary science today, where biology meets data science, technology? How do all of these shape the future of research?
Okay, so thank you. So right in the school, I was interested in the science, and then it was mostly, the physics and maths which interested. So when I joined Indian Institute of Science for my PhD in mid-80s, that's when I started working on the biological problems, and I saw that, there's a lot of, opportunities for the physicists and mathematics people to understand biological problem from a very different angle. And it was in the IISc where when I'm interacting with professors and friends from various departments, I started getting curiosity of, understanding things from the interdisciplinary perspective. And that's how I went into the interdisciplinary work. And since there is a lot of data which are being generated, so during my PhD and postdoc, I worked on the molecules like DNA and proteins and so on. But when I started my own group, started working on all these huge amount of data which are available, and developing methodologies and algorithms for analyzing this complex data. So the data, exploiting knowledge out of the data was one of the challenging aspects, which I thought was very important and which is becoming very, very relevant. Although I worked on the human health and the environmental health, but there are a lot of opportunities for data science in understanding lot of challenges which are there in each of the areas. For example, coming up with diagnostic markers, or coming up with new therapeutic approaches. So one of the areas which I entered into very early on, which was almost close to 2 decades ago, was the field of microbiome, and which is very important when you look into our health, or the plant health, animal health. You think the microbiome play a very important role. So we started developing algorithms, and we could come up with some the microbiome-based biomarkers for disease prediction, and for future of diagnostics and the therapy, and personalized health is towards that is it. So the data which are generated now with the interdisciplinary-ness is becoming very, very important. And I think if all the scientists from different areas, they focus on one particular big challenge, we can solve it because the data is there, and AI is becoming a very powerful tool for predicting the future of whichever, say, whether it is the health or future of what's going to happen in the weather, or environment, and so on. So I think it's very, very important. And I'm although I started from physics, but working on the biological problems and interacting with people from different backgrounds had helped me in understanding the different kind of problems. And I see that the data science play a very, very important role in making a huge impact in the future, for the future.
Sure, we would love to hear from you about how you are passing on these experiences and sharing these experiences with the youngsters in the next round. Let me bring in Ms. Nigar Shaji into the discussion. You've been described as the Sunny Lady of India's space research because, of course, we all know of your leadership in the Aditya L1 mission. But what I'm curious to know about is what is the best part of your story, especially in context of personally and professionally leading India's first mission, which was dedicated to studying the sun. It was a high-profile mission in terms of how you prepared for it, how you led the team, and ultimately how it felt like when the project was launched and the entire world was looking up to India for something that wasn't expected, but we had done.
Thank you. It's okay. Just to say, during my school days, I always like to pursue some research in physics. And Madam Curie was my role model, and my father was the one who inculcated in me the interest in science. But later, I felt that technology is much more evolving those days, and it's an application of science. So, and also less women were pursuing engineering in those days when I wanted to do engineering. So I chose that path and did my engineering. And after engineering, in search of job, I applied for ISRO also, and I got selected. And later, when I joined ISRO, I found, because at that point of time, ISRO was also in a developmental stage, and a lot of new research and development works were going on. So I got interested. And also the environment, what ISRO provides to each one now is, it's a very nice environment. You have a lot of freedom to work. So that way I got interested in continuing in ISRO, and always, as Annapurni told, space is always interesting. And everyone will look up to space, and because always everyone is so curious to know what is the unknown. So that way it was very interesting, and I started my career as a radar engineer, and later I moved into the field of building satellites for the country. So because it's very satisfying to see a satellite being built, and it is in space, and it serves a lot of applications and serves for the humanity, and improving the quality of life of our countrymen. So that way it was very interesting, and also the technologically it is a very niche area, and a lot of new things were happening. So that way I was in the satellite building work, and I got chosen for this leading this Aditya L1 mission, and which I say that I am really lucky to be selected for that mission, because that's a wonderful mission, and we worked for 8 years for that mission. Also, it's a mission where I need to collaborate with all the many science institutes of the country. So that way I got interaction with a lot of scientists of the country and different cultures and the working styles of the different institutes. So that way I could, it was a very satisfying mission for me.
Ms. Shaji, what I'm curious to know is, the details of the project are only known to the world during the launch time. That's where it garners the maximum headlines. But I'm sure, as you rightly said, it took 8 years for you and your team to work behind the scenes to make it a success. Every space mission requires enormous collaboration between the scientists, between the engineers. If you could paint a picture for our viewers about how is it like behind the scenes? How do you effectively collaborate between so many different institutions and so many departments to ensure that even the slightest of error margin is reduced, and so that, because the pressure is so much, you've invested so much of your energy and perseverance in that project to ensure that everything goes smoothly on the last day?
Yeah, but as you said, it's because any project or any work you take, the people management and decision making plays a major role. So the people management is an art which comes to you through experience, I feel. So over the years, when I took over, I already had some experience of around 25 years of people management, because earlier so many projects I have worked, and it was okay. It was, I don't say it is tough. It was quite challenging, but at the same time, it was very interesting. So what I felt is you have to take the team along with you. So you have to make understand that team also works along with you towards the same goal. So that's what you have to motivate the team and make sure they all work together, and that cohesiveness and the collaboration makes the any project successful. That way, okay, it's what I can say is I don't have an MBA or a specific degree in project management or anything, but it's all by the experience and my nature. I could learn things from my mentors and my superior people. So that way I learned that art of, because it's really, because dealing with the people of different work cultures, it's really, initially I felt a little tough to deal with, and later I could learn how to deal it.
That's right. So all of you have remarkable stories of curiosity, of courage, of perseverance, and ultimately, of course, given the contribution that you've made, that we're talking about, how you also inspire so many youngsters. Dr. Rao, one question that, and I came to you at last because you work closely at gender equality, social systems. And when I was doing my research, what intrigued me was that when we see women in STEM, the numbers are very good, more than 40%, and which is more than the global average. But we see fewer women continuing in research careers, despite so many girls studying science. And that is where the question arises, is that when we have so many women in STEM, why can we not still be able to translate it to further in their careers? Why do women in STEM drop out after school? What is it that we need to change in the ecosystem? What is it that your perspective adds to this kind of a concern when it comes to women in STEM in India?
Thank you for that wonderful question. In 2022, we published an Indian report of women in science for UNESCO, and that basically studied this problem on why do women drop out of science, and there are many reasons. I'm personally also an example of a woman who dropped out of technically science, nuclear physics, no less than that, and then chose to move into social sciences. But like I said, the reasons are many, and a lot of it is social-cultural, right? Mm-hmm. So we have traditional roles that we play. We are also we get married and we relocate to the places where our husbands work. We may have jobs, we may not have jobs in the special field that we have been trained in. If it's an elite or a special niche area of science, you may not have that kind of job roles. So there are multiple reasons why women drop out of science. Even if they do enter in work roles of science, their progression in the scientific career is compromised also by their roles and responsibilities as wives and as mothers. I'm not saying this is in a negative way, but this is just the reality of how things are. But for example, I dropped out of my career when I was working in the United States in medical physics after doing a master's in nuclear physics, is because I found my ideal mentor, which was Amma. And I found that what was the point if we did not use our life in service of society? And so that was my shift away from science. So like I said, the reasons could be multitude. It's sometimes a fight between the head and the heart.
I think that's a wonderful way of putting it across, that despite the ecosystem having evolved, about which we've already spoken to Professor Subramaniam, but the question arises, how can we ensure that the girls in science do not drop out? And based on the experience, but based also on the position that you hold now, what changes do you think, whether in institutions, at workplaces, at the policy level, that we require today that will help create an enabling environment, especially for the women scientists in the country?
I think that if you look at the theme of this year's Give to Gain, if I read it, I would think that women have been playing this for a very long time. They have been giving it to the society, Absolutely. Taking a step back. And it has been extremely important for raising the next generation, making sure that, we give back to the society, that women have been doing for years together. But right now, the society has to take a step back and do the same thing to women to make sure that they also can pursue whatever they are passionate about. Because it is important for the entire family to understand that the woman in the family is also passionate about it. They have to, pursue certain research or whatever activity which would actually cut into certain pre-decided activity in the house or in households or in the societal environment, where they should have to say that no, that's possible and they can do it actually. Because if we don't do it, we will not be able to get the unseen, the missing millions, or the invisible 50%. We won't be able to see them. And because as women, as we have been brought up in the same fabric, we still think it's our responsibility to support the family, to be there when people need, etc. If that expectation continues, you can't be in two places at the same time. And then we won't have the peace of mind to actually invest and make sure that the job is done. So I've been telling people that, look, you have to educate everybody around you, saying that let's do it together. It's like a project, right? So everybody has the same focus. So everybody plays their own part, so that we jointly take the responsibility and execute it for the benefit of everybody, so that everybody gets to do whatever they want. So I think that if that is not done, we won't be able to get back. We see improvement, like institutions like mine. I'm the first woman director. So people, now we are able to see women at leadership roles. That's important. But do we have more of them coming? I don't think so. The pyramid is still, the base is still, not very broad. We have to broaden the base so that you have more women opportunities to come and take leadership roles. And that'll gradually change. It's not an overnight fix. But everybody has to think that it is to be fixed and actively participate.
I believe, Professor Subramaniam, you have to leave for a prior commitment. So thank you so much. But as we wrap up, one message that you would like to send across to our young viewers, the young girls who want to pursue a career, who want to become a successful scientist, just as so many of you on the panel, but how to also deal with challenges, maintain that work-life balance that's been spoken about?
I think there are a lot of interesting opportunities and challenging opportunities are there. I think girls can definitely tackle it without any problem. There is no barrier that only men can tackle it. No, women cannot tackle it. There's no barrier there. But they might need to take a step back at certain times when they go through childbirth or times when they need support. So I think men should be understanding that and giving support wherever that is required. Then only you will be able to get those bright women out there to meet. See, Viksit Bharat 2047 requires everybody to perform at their best.
Absolutely, and I think in this aspect, sharing the workload is what that kind of change that we're talking about. Thank you, Professor Subramaniam, for that message. Taking on from what you've said, I'll take it to Dr. Mande. Dr. Mande, based on the conversation that we're having right now, one aspect to retain women in STEM is mentorship. It's in fact often described as a critical factor that will help retain lots of women in STEM. So as we said, the numbers are quite remarkable. When you look at the women in STEM, it's over 40%, but it does not actually translate into these women pursuing careers in science. From your experience, how important do you think is it for successful women scientists to mentor the next generation?
Absolutely, and I think this actually links up with the previous question you just asked. So one is it starts when someone wants to has a passion to do something. So some science, it starts from when in school, and so support from parents are saying, you go ahead and you listen to your heart and do whatever you want. So then after a particular time, they need the mentorship at all stages. I'll give you an example. So why some of these those who are really keen and motivated to do something in science, they drop out because after marriage, then although she had support at home before marriage, but after marriage it's possible that her husband or in-laws they prefer her not to work or something and take a break and so on. So the way I would look at it is that for the girls, if those who are really interested in continuing in the passion which they are, before marriage, if they just make it very clear to the spouse, would-be husband, that she would like to continue in this, and she would like to be supported by him and her parents. And if that is cleared right in the beginning, so it is possible. And of course, I mean, it is very important that you get a support from your husband throughout. So because out of my experience, because I did get support while growing up, my parents were very open-minded, say, go ahead and do whatever you'd like. And of course, my husband and in-laws were very supportive. And one of the points which was mentioned, that when you have the baby is born, and that time the support from everybody, and that the support system has helped me. And balancing another thing which I would say to the young girls, that work-life balance is very important, because it's not just the passion which is going to drive, because your personal life is as important. So balancing that, to do that at times, for example, I'll just give you my example what I used to do. My husband is also a scientist, so and we were married very early on. And during our postdoc time, when our child was very small, she was just 2 years old, and I used to take the bus at 4 in the morning to go to the lab. We were in the same lab doing the postdoc. I would come back at 4 o'clock. My husband would drop my son to the creche around 9, and he would come back very late, and I would come back and pick him up. And so the point which I'm trying to make it is that if you want to do something, the support at home and support in the organization where you work. I mean, the boss said that yes, you do flexible timing, but what he was looking at was the output, what is. So the things which I would say, that the mentoring is very, very important. And a few of the points which I would like the youngsters to know, that if you want to if you are really motivated to do something, you will work no matter what. And you listen to the heart, but you need a support system at home.
I think that's right for every field. Professionally, if women are excelling, it's because on the personal front, they have a wonderful support back home from parents, from families. Dr. Hinduja, the point here is that we talk about women bringing unique strengths, unique abilities to different fields, and that's why when women break glass ceilings, they're celebrated so much. But when it comes to building that support around her, somewhere we are still lagging behind, and that's where we need to work much aggressively if we are to realize the vision of a Viksit Bharat. You've seen generations deal with similar challenges on the socio-economic front. How do you think when we look at 2047, the role of women in leadership positions, because you're aware that now we are not just talking about women empowerment. India is talking about women in leadership positions, women as drivers of the change that we want to see in the next 20 years. But how do we ensure that we give the woman that kind of support to realize the full potential that she has?
I would say, first of all, you create the confidence in the woman that yes, you can do it. I would always give the example, biologically, woman is stronger than the man. See, she is the one, she can manage both fronts, domestic work, at home, as well as in the office. I would always say, ask your husband to change the roles only for 2 days. Let him manage the home as well as the office, and you come like your husband, come and demand for the cup of tea and see whether you can do. He will not do, he will come and say, okay, Baba, you take your role. I will not be able to do it. So you have to make him realize, understanding, make him understand, tell him this, and give him a due respect and due importance. They always agree. But first of all, the lady has to have the confidence in her that yes, I can manage. I will be able to do, I will manage. And second thing, management of your timing. As the earlier speaker said, manage your timings in such a way that everybody at home gets their importance, get their time, and get to know that. And also involve them with your work. I mean, once I come home, I used to share what I did today and what I want to do, what you have to do. I said, you have to help me to do this. You please give me this information. You read this and tell me. So, and then I go and tell the, see, what you read was correct, and my experiment is successful. So involve them with your work. Nobody can do singularly. You have to have it. At home, I agree, you have to have the support. But if they get also involved in your work and manage your time, if you want to do it, now one has to manage the time at any time. Now, for example, I used to do IVA, but I had no dedicated theatre. So I had to do after everybody finishes the work or before the theatre is occupied requiem. I used to a collection at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I used to come at 2 o'clock or stay overnight in the hospital. So in that way, you require management of time everywhere. Everywhere you require. Have a confidence, manage your time, take the people in confidence, involve them in your work, give them the due importance and the respect. I think cooperation will always be there.
In the field of science, which can be very, very demanding, research can be very demanding. Sometimes failures can be huge setbacks. What is it that you would like to advise young girls who want to pursue a career in the field of science to ensure that they don't drop out?
We can make institutional changes. This is that I feel is far more important. Yes, we can adjust our timings. We can be super women, super moms all at the same time. First, there is this huge misconception about a work-life balance. I'm sorry, don't mean to be offensive. For women, it's work-work balance because you're working at work and you're working at home. So where's life in between? You have to fit your life between work and work. And we don't get any kind of qualification or recognition for the work that is done at home. Do we get an MBA for home management? No, but maybe we ought to. Maybe that's why women are good at managing, because they're also managing at home. There is no proper qualification or recognition of the skills you pick up in managing your household thing. Second, this is so there should be some way of formally recognizing the skills that a woman picks up in her day-to-day life, which does not exist right now. The second is we make a mistake of mandating industry. Why do we mandate industry? Industries have one goal, which is profit making. So when you mandate or demand that industries have to take an X amount of women, it actually backfires of keeping women in those roles, because they'll just automatically not select women at the interview. They always will take women out at the very start. Instead, you can incentivize industry as opposed to penalizing industry. This is a much better way of actually getting women into the system. The third recommendation is financial. Grants for young women researchers. The access to grant funding for research is far lesser than that of men. Same thing for women who want to do startups. So part of Viksit Bharat is also women innovators. The amount of seed capital funding that a woman startup will receives is much, much lesser than what a man can receive. So making sure that we have access to funding for those who are doing research and those who are basically innovators. Then the next thing that I would say is workplace upgradation. Like whether you're going to have safer working spaces, creches for where you can actually bring your children to work, and also, like you said, distribution of labor within the house where the man is equally responsible, but also that kind of a thing will also require a slightly different aspect, not looking at the women, but also investing in the care economy in India. This will feed in directly to helping keeping women in science, women in technology, and women in being active participants of the Indian economy.
Certainly. So changes and transformations at multiple levels, starting from the behavioral and social space to, of course, the institutional levels, as you rightly said. And it has to be a whole of a system approach that enables that kind of a conducive environment for women to ensure that there is a work-life balance, and to ensure that they're able to professionally harness the potential and the ability that they have in themselves. But Ms. Shaji, I'll come to you, because we've spoken enough about enabling that environment for women. But what we've also seen over the last few years is that the visibility of women scientists has also garnered a lot of optimism, given a lot of hope to people otherwise who weren't as curious or weren't as inspired to make a career in these areas. So now that people like you have become a role model, leading from the front, you're in leadership positions, do you think that visibility has helped youngsters imagine themselves in your places and perhaps aim higher in these areas? Do you think that visibility and women coming in leadership positions has made any kind of difference?
Definitely. Compared to the years where I joined and where I started working to now, definitely a lot more women are into it. And present generation, I also appreciate many of them are also very clear about what they want. So they are they are making their own, they are in a position to take their own decisions. That's mainly because of the financial independence what you have today for women. Definitely it has become better, but it has to lot more become better. For that, I feel what Dr. Bhavani says, see, all the facilities we can give, but with all that also, the innate strength of the women herself should feel, I have the aspiration that I should do it. That has to come within. So with all the facilities, what you can support, we can give, but still, I just want to contradict this work-life balance. That's why we should talk about this work-life balance. See, that's why women should be always asked of work-life balance. See, she can integrate. That's what I feel. She need not feel guilty that I have not taken care of the family. That guilty feeling should go. So it is the responsibility in everyone in the family to make a career for everyone as well as the family for everyone. So that type of mentality that now the present existing societal bias should go and that mentality should come in. For that, what I say, we make the society, right? Society is nobody else. We are the society. So my always I advise all the younger people, as a mother, it should start from them. See, as a family, we are the mothers bring up the family. They have the more role in it. So when they bring up, they should inculcate in their girl and their son and daughter a mutual respect, and also to inculcate in their sons that they are also equally responsible for the family upbringing. So that way the society should grow and the societal bias should go out. Then only the women can come to a full 50%, or more than 50% leaders in the society.
That's right, and that's not only because we are, the state of progress that we are in and the ambition that we have set for ourselves. It's also important because socially, when we transform and socially when we evolve, we take our country to perhaps a new level of development. Dr. Mande, one question that I had in mind, and this connects to the role that India plays today in the area of digital innovation. Since you're an expert in the area of computational biology, you spoke earlier on in the program about AI and the rampant use and misuse of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. How do you think that with India becoming a global hub of digital innovation, AI-driven research can contribute to not just these societal changes that we're talking about, the economic changes that we're talking about, but also in solving the real world problems that pertain especially to the Indian context? So we have some localized challenges which we are now looking towards these technologies to help us solve.
Yeah, so that's a wonderful question. So definitely AI is going to have a huge impact. And for India, so right now, the way we use the data which are the Western data. So if we take the medical field, let's take the medical field. We are taking all the data which are there in the European or American or all the Western data, and we are making all the models based on the models which you make with respect to the Western data, which is not going to fit into the Indian, because we are, genetically, ethnically, our makeup is different, our lifestyle is different. So all the whatever we say that is the prediction of say the health aspect, for example, or biomarker, if you are going to come up with, Western data is not good. So we have to generate our own data, particularly in the health sector. If you go to look into it, we have to generate our own, the medical. We have lots of medical data. We have all the genomics data which we need. Now the government has gone into this and looking into the 1,000 genome project, or the human microbiome project, and so on. So our own data sets is going to help us in developing, coming up with models which will best best work for our Indian scenario. And AI is going to play a very major role. But unless we have our own data, we will feel, we are missing out on the data which are, we are right now basing on the Western data. So we have to generate our own data is something which I think is really, really needed in that.
That's right. Technological transformations, innovation is something that will be central to our journey towards becoming a Viksit Bharat. Dr. Rao, this question is for you. How do you see the Indian scientists, and especially the women scientists, contributing to this transformation? Because we often hear our Prime Minister say that in this journey towards becoming a developed nation, youth and the women are the central pillars. So how do you see the women contributing majorly in this transformation, despite the challenges that we still continue to face in this age?
I think the answer is this excellent panel that you have in front of you. You have so many role models now to look at. And notice that most of them actually said that they've chosen these fields because they've had role models. And I think we have an excellent lineup of role models in India, women in science leading some amazing missions. I think that itself, in itself is a great start. And as ma'am said, that we need to really expand the base of the funnel, get a lot more girls into science, and so that we can see them trickle into leadership. And I think also Sharmila ma'am talked about how the women perspective in terms of data, in terms of design, is going to be its own unique contribution. And South Asia in itself has its own peculiarities, and it has its own challenges that it brings to the table. And so to have Indian women involved, inspired by these wonderful women you have, including yourself, I think we will do good.
Thank you so much. And before we wrap up the conversation, I'd like to take one last message from the senior most member on the panel, Dr. Hinduja. You've seen it all, the manner in which our country has evolved over the decades. 2026 marked a new generation altogether. Generation Alpha is what we've now begun to see. For a young girl who's watching this program today on this Women's Day special, what is the most important message that you would like her to remember?
Most important is that yes, you can do it. You are better off than the man. Have the confidence, go ahead. There is nobody is going to come in your way. Every hurdle is your stepping stone, and you can always cross it and you can succeed it. I'm sure you can convince her that your best is to go in a research and develop something new about it. Such a new fields have opened up, rather than only going at an MBA, this and that, in a gene therapy, in detection of that, a stem cell therapy. Now they are almost trying to eradicate the cancers and all that. It is such a therapy. Sometimes I myself feel that I was born little early. Why can't I be born little late, so I would have gone in? That is such an interesting field there, that they would definitely have the better life, better understanding, and better science, and better work to do it. Pursue your career. I'm sure you will succeed. And not that only you will be able to manage home front as well as your work. And also all these governments and the institutes are also helping. One thing I should say, you must pay more to a woman than the man, then the man will push up woman to work. So instead of
that's the most important message, that confidence is the biggest weapon that will take you forward. I think despite the challenges, there are so many role models that we've had on the panel. They started off when it wasn't easy for women to strive in these careers, but they did, and that's why they've shared such inspiring stories with us on how they persevered and became successful. So many examples, stories before us to follow and imbibe in our lives as well. Thank you so much to all our panelists for joining in today, sharing your stories, inspiring so many of our viewers who are watching us on this Women's Day special. But most importantly, for that message that there is nothing that can beat confidence. If we have the confidence and the perseverance, there is nothing that can stop us. Thank you so much once again, and thank you to you viewers for your time as well. I wish you all a very happy Women's Day.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।